Hello, everybody. This is Brian Ankney with Auto Success Magazine. I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day to join us today. Today, Mark Tewart and my guest is Ryan Decker. He's the General Sales Manager at McCurry-Deck Chevrolet Buick GMC. They are a Powertrain for Life dealership, and we're going to talk today a lot about, some different processes they use as a rural dealer to compete with the larger metro dealers.
And it's listen-only mode.
Sorry about that. So yeah, we're going to talk about how a rural dealer can compete with big city dealers, and we are also going to talk about how they really try to make their customers for life. Mark Tewart is here with us today. Mark, would you like to share a little information about Ryan with us?
Absolutely. I just want to disclaim up front that this particular dealer is actually a client of mine, and I met the dealer after speaking at NADA last year, and super nice guy, and just was very, very humble and said he was a second-generation dealer, but he humbly admitted that the results at the store were not where he wanted it to be, and it had went down some and was looking to improve it. So I've been working with the store, and one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that made the difference was bringing Ryan in. And Ryan has done a phenomenal job, and we have seen a more than double increase in sales at the store, and he has a long way to go. The store's got so much more potential. And I won't talk about actual gross profit numbers, but will say that just about anybody in the country would be very happy with their overall gross profit numbers, and their F&I numbers rank with some of the best this month, let's say, of anybody you'll talk to. And I give tribute to Ryan for that. And so based upon that, I just wanted to kind of turn it over to you a little bit, Ryan, and wanted you to tell us maybe a little bit about Ryan Decker, how long you've been in the business, how you got in the business, what you were doing before you got in the business.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I've been in the business since 2003. Prior to that, I had a 10-year military career in the Air Force. And then some people would say the Air Force isn't the real military, but it was 10 years nevertheless. And from there I got out. My background was in computers, and I jumped into technology management for state government at first, and then on to the private sector after that. And the funny thing is like a lot of people, how they find their way to this business was I needed a job. Some downsizing occurred, and I relocated to be closer to my parents, and needed a job. So ended up just jumping into the car business. I'd never sold anything in my life. So I've been primarily with General Motors ever since I've been in the car business. I did take a short 12-month vacation and did Nissan, and glad to be back with the General Motors brand.
That's fantastic. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I think a lot of times when we do these webinars and when you go to seminars, you see the dealers that are the big dealers. And, like in my career, I've been really blessed to work with some big dealers, and you see what they do and how they become big dealers. But I really have always enjoyed working with the small and some of the medium or rural dealers. And people have asked me before, they say, well, is it harder to make a big dealer grow big numbers, or is it harder for a smaller or medium size? And I always thought that, like with what you're doing, to grow the size and double sales at a smaller store because of a lack of some of those other resources that a big dealer might have, is actually a bigger and better job. And so based upon that, with what you guys have done, just talk about maybe some processes you have and some things you do on a daily basis that you think has really helped to increase the sales of the store.
Well, I think the key to growing the business is first having a vision. Whether you're selling 500 a month and you want to sell 1,000, or whether you're selling 20 and you want to sell 80. The first thing is you got to have a plan, a vision. What is my goal, and then put together a plan to reach that goal. What are the objectives that I've got to essentially check off in order to reach that goal, and then It's regiment. To me, it's discipline and regiment. You know, I've heard you talk about it, Mark. I've heard a lot of people, not just in the auto industry, but in the business world itself, is it comes down to people, product, and process. And you know, I think being, especially a General Motors franchise store, you know, product is at the utmost importance right now because it's hard to get. It's extremely hard to get. And anybody that's been with General Motors for an extended period of time knows it was a lot easier in the past. So I always put product first, and we've been trying to do some creative things to get more product in here on the new car side. And then it's people. It's going out and trying to find the right people. Being a smaller store in a smaller market, your talent pool is much smaller. So you find yourself having to, you know, take people out of other industries, bring them in, and train them. So we have a regimented training process. We train every day. We train every day, and I try to dumb down my training, so to speak, to make it as simple as possible for the salespeople. But I'm continuously going over the exact same stuff over and over and over again. And then I would say the other thing to it is continual coaching. You know, throughout the day, as you're working with your salespeople, whether you're doing one-on-ones or whether they're getting ready to work a car deal with you, is to sit down and coach them. And because every time that you're working a car deal, every time there's an opportunity to sell a car, there's an opportunity for training. So the people definitely, I think, is much more difficult to get your hands wrapped around as far as getting good talented people in. And then the other thing is process, and that to me comes down to regiment, is you got to do it the same time every time without fail. And I know a lot of people that have gotten into this business know when it comes to the talent pool of people out there that are experienced, that you're continuously chasing your tail when it comes to process. And a lot of times you find out that it's not a process problem, it's a people problem. So you're continuously tweaking on a daily basis through training, through evaluation, and to try to get the process down to the point where everybody understands it, knows it like the back of their hand, and they're doing it every time without fail.
That's really interesting. That's great stuff, and it made me think of a couple of things I'd like to ask you about that, Ryan, if I can. Like, when you say you train every day, I'm a big believer in that. That's huge. You're growing your people, and I would believe that's helped you grow your sales. But the question I have for you, I think a lot of people want to know is, I know you said you train on some of the same things. Two questions. How long, on average, would you say you train when you train every day? Are you the one doing it? And then what are some of the things that you train on?
I try to not go over 30 minutes. Of course, you know, I'm human, so I may get on my bandwagon about something and go over, but I try to cut myself off at no more than 30 minutes. You know, when do we normally train? We normally train first thing in the morning, and you're in your conference room or your training room, and you're staring across to these faces. Half of them, you know, they barely got their eyes open, and you know they're sucking down coffee left and right just to stay awake because they just heard this yesterday. And so I try to do 30 minutes a day. I also try to do back-to-back, train the same thing back-to-back, day to day. So the things that I primarily focus on is I break down the steps of the sale into basically two pieces. You know, outside of the building and inside the building, you know, and so outside of the building obviously are going to be the steps of the sale, such as, you know, the walk around, such as the demo drive, and then inside, of course, is getting all their information, getting into the CRM, and preparing the numbers for the customer and presenting the numbers to the customer. So 2 days in a row, I'll go over the steps of the sale outside of the building, and then I'll come back and I'll hit 2 days in a row of the steps of the sale inside the building. You know, what I found is that when I got here, there was a beginning of a process. Of course, you were here before I was, and so there was already a basis to go off from. We had to make some changes with some of the personnel that we had here, and we started all over again, just like, basically retraining from birth of how to go back out there and sell a car the right way and doing it the same way every time.
So
Okay.
spaced repetition is a big part of what you do, and that's why you think it's probably successful of continuing to go over the same thing to keep a top-of-mind awareness, correct?
Absolutely. I've often said, check your doorways going into your training room, that there's a magnet in there that when the salespeople walk out, it zaps their brains and they forgot everything that you just told them in the training room. So, I believe repetition and continuously going over the same steps of the sale is the only way that you can get your salespeople up to par.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's hard for a lot of people to do, so I think that your diligence in that is what makes a big difference. And don't let me interrupt you, Brian, if you want to jump in with a question there. I wanted to ask one, and then let me turn it over to you if I can. But you had mentioned that also your process. I know some of the processes that you do, but as a manager, talk about a couple of the processes, whether it's in your sales process or save a deal or whatever it may be, that you do that you think helps make you guys more, have increased sales to make you more successful than what you were.
Well, I have a process. I kind of have a regiment. When I come in the morning, I get here. The store opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm normally here about 7:20. And the first thing I do is I go and I look at all of my used car pricing. I do it every morning to see how I'm priced to the market. The second thing I do is I prepare for the Save a Deal meeting where, the owner, myself, F&I, as well as we have a satellite used lot that we just opened up. That manager calls in, and essentially that allows us to go over, what bureaus did we pull yesterday? Is there any deals we couldn't put together? What's our contracts in transit situation? What are we going to be training on for the day? Any tweaks to any processes that we need to roll out to people, whether it be in F&I or whether it be on the sales floor. We do that during the Save a Deal meeting. And then from the Save a Deal meeting, we immediately go into our sales training with our sales staff. And then we also do our one-on-one with our salespeople. And the one-on-one with salespeople is probably the most important step. Out of everything we do on a day in and day out basis is probably the most important. And that's where we'll sit down one-on-one, open up the CRM tool, and go over all of the working leads that salesperson has. And more importantly, as we're going over them and looking at their notes and what they've done with them, I'll pick up the phone and make a phone call and call that customer to see. A lot of times you'll see a salesperson will say, hey, I've tried calling them. So I'm going to do a spot check, and I'm just going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call that customer and see if I can get them on the phone. Don't always get them on the phone. I leave a message as a manager of the dealership, want to check with them, saying that we noticed that you were in the other day, want to make sure that you got everything that you need. Is there anything I could do to help you put a car deal together? And leave my name and number. But many times we get a hold of them, and we put car deals together doing that. So the one-on-one is probably the most important thing I believe we do all day long.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. That's coaching, not just managing. That's working people, not deals. When you work with people and coach people, the deals get easier. You definitely made me think of a couple of questions, but I'll throw it over to and ask you, Brian. Did you have something based upon what he said that you'd like to ask?
Well, I'm guessing that your military background probably helped you to develop this repetition and consistency. I mean, do you feel like that's where you got that from?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything you do in the military is about regiment, doing it the same way every time. And I will say that the military, at least while I was in, I'm sure it's evolved since I've been out, was all about process. And the one thing I'll say about the military, they teach you make a decision based off the information that you have at the time, and then as you evaluate and obtain more information, if you need to change your decision, you change it and you move on. And that's really the car business. There's no secret there's no secret recipe. You can't buy a dealership in a box, open it up, and become a successful dealer. So a lot of it is trial and error. But once you get onto something, most of the reason why you see that I have been involved with, at least, dealers that turn around all of a sudden something spikes, whether it's either gross or whether it's volume, and then all of a sudden a little while later it goes away, is because you were doing something successful, you just didn't keep doing it. So the regimen is, to me, doing the same thing every time without fail, day in and day out, is the absolute most important thing you can do.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Great, yeah, and I want to let everybody know, if you have any questions as we go through this webinar, there's a question function on your GoToWebinar pane. It'll just say, you'll say questions, you click on the plus sign, it'll drop down, or you can click on the little arrow to the right side of it, and it'll open up in a bigger screen for you to ask questions. We're going to hold all the questions until the end, but at the end of the webinar, we'll address all the questions. Also, if anybody would like a copy of the slide deck, because a couple of our screens, like the delivery checklist, might be hard to see if you're watching on a mobile phone. Just send me an email. It's Brian with an I at autosuccessonline.com. And actually, I want to kind of shift gears here a little bit. Ryan, share with us a little bit about what your marketing budget is per month and what that looks like across different media.
Well, our true advertising budget is $25,000 a month, and here's how I evaluate what true is your traditional media is to include digital spend not forced on you by the manufacturer. All of us that are franchise dealers, whether no matter what brand it is, they all have a digital something that they force you to participate in. And I don't count that number into my advertising budget, albeit it is advertising. I don't count it. I count the items that I elect to sign up for as part of my advertising budget. And with that being said, it's $25,000. And that's spread out. We do, now keep in mind I've been here 6 months. At first we did a little television. Dealer had never been on television before. Dabbed in that a little bit, quite a bit of radio, and then digital. We spend quite a bit of money on lead providers and pay per click. And what we've seen is the lead providers are predominantly your used car lead providers. You're not going to get a whole lot of new car leads off from that. And we're spending, the biggest part of our spend on pay per click is for new cars. And we target the markets we want to hit. Of course, we're right in our own backyard. Our area of responsibility is where the bulk of the pay per click goes. But then we're reaching out to some areas around us that are our competitors and putting some money there on pay per click as well. So I would say, believe it or not, our budget, our true budget of $25,000 is split right down the middle between digital and traditional.
The question in regards to that, I think that, because of the title of this program, where it is about either smaller or rural dealers, you're in Forest City, North Carolina, so you're not in a massive metro market. So a lot of people, not being a massive dealer, they want to know, hey, is your increased sales coming because you're spending massive amounts of dollars more, or are you just doing a better job with what you already had?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think first and foremost, the store has been here under one name for 50-plus years. So you're going to have some repeat business coming in. You're going to have some business coming in just because your name is so known because it's been here for 50-plus years. But rural western North Carolina it's extremely spread out. And whereas you may out west travel an hour to go buy a car, most people don't do that here. So what we've done is we've put a lot of money into digital, such as AutoTrader, Cars.com, UsedCars.com, and then make sure that our used cars are priced to market. And we're bringing people from outside our market to buy cars from us. And it is on a monthly basis. It's happening many times during the month. Case in point, yesterday we had a call from a gentleman in Tennessee, a little over 3.5 hours away, on a particular pickup that we had in stock, and he saw it on AutoTrader. We delivered the truck to him, sight unseen, took the paperwork, signed him, delivered the truck, and came home. So this store was not doing that before. So there's an incremental sale that they weren't picking up before.
Along those same lines, kind of tell me about your delivery coordinator person and some of the things you and I have been working together and what you've implemented there with the person doing that and what she does and how you think that's helping. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but just give if you want, a little description of that if you could.
Well, when I first got here, I found that the sales staff was not up to speed on the technology of the new vehicles. And so the delivery process, as I reviewed my CSI surveys, the biggest thing we were getting hit on was, that we weren't hooking up their phone to Bluetooth, that we weren't setting up their navigation, that we weren't setting up their Wi-Fi, a big thing with General Motors is the OnStar, pushing the blue button and getting that set up. My staff didn't even know that OnStar had a mobile app that you could set up for the customer. So rather than as our sales grow, I wanted my salespeople to focus on selling cars. So I hired, we actually call her customer care manager, and as soon as the customer comes out of finance, she takes over. And she follows this checklist on every sale, new and used. And Mark knows this. We talked about it so much today. It's not just about giving the customer a great deal as the reason why they're buying from you. It's about the experience. So we're trying to close the loop from the time the salesperson greets the customer all the way through the entire sale, coming back to service, and then being followed up with after the service visit as well. So this is part A of that, and that is again, when they come out of finance, she takes over. She sets up their OnStar. She makes sure that the vehicle is clean when it comes out before the customer comes out of finance. She sets up the first service visit. She introduces them to service and shows them where the body shop is. She makes sure that we have the proper email address for RDRing of the new car, and make sure it's in CRM for our future email blast that we use. She goes over all of this information, then goes out and we try to obtain some reviews at that time, whether it be Facebook, Google, or cars.com. We take a picture with the customer to put onto our Facebook, YouTube, in our Google, our Google page, and then she takes them out and basically goes over and delivers the car to them. And along the way, she's sprinkling in a little bit about the CSI survey. So last but not least, what she does is we have hired a local baker here, a young lady that's just started her own business, and she bakes a dozen cookies for every customer. So our customer care manager sends all that information to her, and then she will mail out the cookies. As a thank you, we've got some pre-printed documents that go in there, essentially a thank you card from the entire team here at the dealership, thanking them for their business. And then she does the follow-up after the fact to make sure that the customer is satisfied prior to getting to the CSI survey. Then, once they come in for their first service visit, we have somebody working our service drive. We call her our service concierge. And she basically, when anybody is in for service and they're in our waiting room waiting, she tends to them. She basically comes to them and, hey, let's show you where our snack bar is, and get some coffee, tea, cider, whatever, hot chocolate, whatever they may want, snacks. And then she has a survey as well that she will go over with the customer and talking about the service, their vehicle, our service department, their relationship with the dealership, and the questions lean towards discussing with the customer, would they be interested in trading? And what I found is if you stick a salesperson back there and the salesperson is doing nothing but talking to the customers about, hey, how would you like to trade your car in today? You don't get near the response as you do if you have a nice, warm individual come up, care about the customer, get the customer, no different than when you sell a car on a normal basis, get the customer talking about themselves and their relationship with the dealership, then move towards talking to them about trading their vehicle in today.
Ryan, I think that's an awesome point, and I got to tell you, I have a little saying that if you look at the root of the word sell, it means to serve. And what you found out there and what you're implementing with this person is they're really just trying to serve the customer better, and that's getting you better results than somebody trying to hammer somebody in service. You're getting what you want by getting them what they want. So I think that's an awesome job. Really good.
Yeah, what's funny about that is my mother actually called me a few weeks ago and she said, "You better not be teaching these guys in your magazine to come back and harass old ladies while they're getting their oil changed."
That's exactly right. And I have participated myself as a salesperson when I first came into the business of having to go out, and be at work at 7:30 and work the service drive. And you got a customer that bought a vehicle and they love their vehicle. They're back there drinking coffee, just relaxing, waiting for their oil to be changed, watching TV, and you're back there hounding them about, hey, you want to buy a car today? I'm doing my job. I'm a salesperson. I'm trying to sell a car, but that approach, that mentality, to me, doesn't work in the service department.
Well, and I don't really feel that when you're hounding them without a benefit to them. I mean, I love your approach of having a person that cares about them, that talks to them, and then brings up the opportunity as opposed to just trying to sell them. I feel like that probably really contributes to that idea of a customer for life, where you're there to serve your customer as opposed to just sell your customer. Would you mind sharing a little information about your Customer for Life program with our audience today?
Absolutely. We started this October 1st. And essentially, we took the powertrain, lifetime powertrain, and built on it, and added some items to it. And we're looking at expanding it even more. Essentially, anybody that buys a new or pre-owned car here from October 1st on, they get the lifetime powertrain. They get state inspection stickers for life at no charge. Anytime they bring their vehicle into service, we wash it even during an oil change. So they get free car washes. They get free loaner cars when they bring their vehicle in. It needs to spend time with us to get repaired. And it doesn't matter what it is. Again, if it's a used car, I want the used car business just as bad as I do the new car business back in my service department. They buy 3 tires, they get 1 free. The first referral fee is $100. Any referral fee after that's $250. It goes up to entice somebody to get to the second referral. We actually have a customer that we sold that to. We sold them a vehicle after October 1st, and she's brought in 5 people because of this program. And all dealers have got, I would assume all dealers have referral programs. They just don't talk about it. And so, again, going back to my customer care manager, one of the things that she goes over, we have it, the salesperson has to go over Customer for Life. The finance manager, when they are signing up with finance, has to go over Customer for Life. And so too does the delivery care manager, okay, the customer care manager. She has to go over it. And then our young lady that is back there, our service concierge, also goes over that with customers back there, whether they are members or not. So everybody's hearing about the referral program. And again, it's a great way of bringing in extra car deals that really and truthfully any dealer would love to spend $250 per car to sell a car in advertising.
Ryan, you had mentioned at the beginning of this call, you talked about 3 Ps, people, process, and product, and I talk about 4 Ps, and that other 4th P is positioning. What's your positioning in the marketplace versus your competitors? And one of the things we were missing at McCurry-Deck that we worked on with your owner and with you, and you guys have done a great job at, is what is your position? And, as a disclaimer, I was your product provider for that Customer for Life for the lifetime powertrain program, but that was the first step that we put in there to try to say, okay, when the customer buys a car here, they're going to get a lifetime powertrain program that will cover them for the lifetime that they own the car, and it will also be a way to position ourselves but tie them into our service department. And then we've taken it and through some ideas that you've had as well, elaborated on that. And then I think it's really helped you guys in creating that position. And there's a great slide that kind of gives you an idea of some of the things. And you have these on each and every car, is that correct?
Correct. We utilize an outside service for all of our marketing materials, our Maronis and buyer's guides on the cars, and we have built this into that for our pre-owned cars, and every new car has an addendum that looks just like this on right next to the window sticker on every vehicle. Again, it's free of charge to the customer. It doesn't matter if you buy 10 a year or one every 10 years. You become part of this Customer for Life program.
I think the big thing there is that's what I call your SDP, or specific defining proposition, and it becomes not just about money and price, but about the value of how you position yourself. What do you give? What all does the customer see that they get from you that they may not get anywhere else? And part of that's just old-fashioned experience, but now you've got some things to talk to that become a part of your selling process. And I think you guys have, you would be the first to agree that, anybody that's doing well, you always think you got a long way to go and there's so much more you can work on. But I think you guys have done such a fantastic job of taking this and genuinely giving it to your customers, and share with me kind of what the response has been since you've been doing this from your customers.
Well, I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, we had a customer in service. Our customer concierge was going over the survey with her, asking her about her experience. She loved doing business with us in our service department. She had not bought her car here. She bought it elsewhere. We went over the Customer for Life program, and she asked, how do I become part of that? My customer concierge says, great question, come with me. Brought her up to sales. We got that person with the salesperson. They now own a car from McCurry-Deck. She saw such value in this that she literally traded in her car and bought another car to get the benefits of the Customer for Life program. So that to me speaks louder than anything, any description I can give as to how well this is being received. The first time in October that I went in and took a turn on a customer, and I was on the second pencil turn, I went in before I ever showed the pencil to the customer. I pulled, we have little passport size brochures that looks just like this on each salesperson's desk. I pulled that out and went over it. The first question out of the customer's mouth was, how much is it? And I said, it's free. And she said, really? And I said, yes. I turned the pencil over, went over the pencil with her. She signed up, and she too became a member of our Customer for Life program.
I think everybody can hear your passion, your dedication, the emphasis on process of doing the right things day in and day out. I mean, it's so much. We're looking for magic pills in this industry often, and the reality is it's blocking and tackling, and I just think you do a really good job of blocking and tackling, so good for you. What is on the customer survey there? What are some of the things that you're asking them?
Well, did you buy your vehicle here? How long have you had your vehicle? What service are you having today? Some of these questions are questions that we're asking in order to pick an applicable question below to get them to move from being a service customer back to a sales customer. And for example, what mechanical problems are you having with your vehicle? Well, it's in for a transmission. So I look down below, I say, well, what if I could get you out of this vehicle and into a reliable vehicle with warranty? Would you be interested? Well, if somebody's in and they're getting their transmission repaired, I don't know of any vehicle that has an inexpensive transmission. And so even if that vehicle is under warranty, if a lot of the consumer's mentality is, hey, it's broken once, it's going to break again, let's take the opportunity to try to migrate them back up to sales and become a sales customer. Worst case scenario, what will end up happening is you'll notice that I've got some questions like, what changes would you recommend that we make here at McCurry-Deck. Have you heard about our Customer for Life Rewards program, of course? But, you know, we've gotten some input from the customers about making some changes back in service. You know, if you don't ask, you don't know. And so every customer that comes into our service department that goes to our waiting room, now if they just drop off and leave, a lot of times we don't get to talk to them. But if they're a waiter, everybody gets asked this question, and we're getting some good feedback as to some changes we need to make to improve our service to our customers.
So you're kind of doing a 360 review of your dealership, but you're doing it with your customers, which is probably the best place to start.
Yes, sir.
Brian, you know how I knew he was going to be successful in a small and rural dealership? You know how I knew?
How'd you know?
How?
He chews tobacco. I figured he'd fit right in Forest City, North Carolina.
Yep.
Yes, that's exactly. That was part of the interview process.
Oh, is that one of the questions you asked? Do you like Skoll or Copenhagen?
Yeah. While we were sitting at
I give
Bojangles.
him a hard time about that. That's why I bring it up. I give him a hard time about it.
That's cool. You know, I wanted to ask, do you feel that your Customer for Life program maybe gives you a little bit of an edge against, you know, the big city dealers that probably try to pull a lot of deals out of your area?
Well, I can tell you this. I think a lot of the big city dealers have got addendums on their cars, you know, and specifically in the new car market, and they're charging a lot of money for additional either features, accessories, or services. And so I do believe that it gives us a competitive edge that we don't charge anything for our Customer for Life program. It is entirely free. No matter what we end up negotiating the car deal to, you get our Customer for Life program. That's one of the things that the owner said. Everybody gets it no matter what. You can't pull it out of the deal. And
the funny part of this, Ryan, is that most people hear this and they think, gosh, you're giving them all this stuff. It costs so much money, and, you know, it's hard to make profit. And I'm not going to talk numbers for a lot of reasons, just because it's not right, and there's other legal issues of why we don't want to talk gross profit. But I'll promise you, anybody in the country would be very happy with his average gross profit right now from front to back end. So when you think that by giving somebody something and adding a few dollars in there for it, takes away from your being able to make profit honestly, morally, ethically, and any other way, I think Ryan would agree that that's just not the case.
Well, it's absolutely not the case, because of the fact that, you know, we're all taught ever since we've been in the car business, every deal stands on its own. How many car deals are you not getting because you don't have it? That's the number you can't put your finger on. So, you know, to me, if I look in over the course of the last 6 months, with very minor changes to this store, we've doubled our volume.
Wow.
This has got to be a contributor to it.
You can add up all the steps of everything he's talked about, which are all just great items. But the reality is, if you add it all up, it's culture and environment. You're changing culture and environment of a business.
Correct. I mean, and we talk about it all the time as to what our culture is. Just had the conversation with my dealer yesterday. You know, do we want to be the big boy on the block and be the biggest, you know, General Motors dealer in Western North Carolina, or do we not want to be? And my mentality is, I want to be the biggest dealer in Western North Carolina, the biggest GM dealer. I'd love to be the biggest dealer, but at a minimum, the biggest GM dealer in Western North Carolina. And if you have that mentality, you may never hit it, but you won't ever hit it if you don't have the mentality.
That's awesome. Brian, you got anything else?
Yeah. You know, I'd like to ask the question. You know, when implementing a Customer for Life program, and that including a powertrain for life, how does that affect the other F&I products?
It doesn't. It actually will. It will actually enhance the other F&I products. Again, because of the fact the salesperson goes over it prior to them coming to the finance office, they're aware that they're getting a lifetime powertrain. And the manufacturers have talked about powertrain and warranties, and so what we're finding is when our customers get back with finance, they're much more warmed up to the idea of buying an extended service contract. So our penetration has, can we talk about penetration, Mark?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so our penetration, now we're in a market where we're a mixture of cash finance and outside finance. We've got a pretty strong credit union here, but right now, this month, our finance penetration is 76%, okay? Our warranty penetration, our extended service contract penetration is 62%.
Wow.
So that is, that's got a lot to do with the fact that we're discussing the lifetime powertrain prior to the customer going to our finance office.
Great.
That's a great job.
Yeah. Well, Mark, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
No, I think we've wrung every single thing we can get out of him for now, but man, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some things, because I think it reiterates for a lot of people, the customer experience angle and how much we all have to get better at it every day. And then the blocking and tackling, some of the things that you do really well, Ryan, it's not rocket science. You just really do it diligently every day. And a lot of it is, once you do it for a while, it changes culture and environment. So, kudos to you, man. Just keep it up.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Hey, everybody, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't yet, please go to Facebook and join the group Auto Success Webinars. It's a great place to interact with our audience as well as our speakers. If there's a topic you'd like to see covered, please go there or message me or email me. This is Brian with Auto Success, and my email is brian@autosuccessonline.com. Please send me any topics you'd like to see. We have somebody that writes for the magazine that can speak to just about any topic in the car business. Ryan, thank you for joining us. Mark, thank you as always, and I hope we all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.